And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Stratford, Dave Lochran with you. So everyone listening, this is the second time we've done this intro.
We're not doing a third take.
We're not doing a third take. Dave and Dan with you on this Friday morning. We're going to talk NBA. I'll probably throw some MLB thoughts in our MLB Slack chat. The MLB podcast will kick off in earnest Monday morning. So Dave and I will talk MLB Monday morning moving forward. We'll have some NBA thoughts where necessary, but we'll transition therein. Want to give at least a weekend of some stats to work off of, especially this early on with no lineups and with so much changing. Figured better off focusing on NBA and bringing you that update, and then we'll talk some MLB next weekend. To be quite honest, plenty of free content from Awesemo.com over there on YouTube. There is a MLB strategy show, and there'll be an MLB deeper dive. So you'll get that, and you'll get content behind the paywall at Awesemo.com as well, write-ups and projections and all those things for Major League Baseball. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, one word, to get you 50% off. Dave, how the hell are you doing?
Not bad. Ian Clark is garbage. Let me tell you something. I'm at 300 points right now with Ian Clark 5.5, Derek Jones Jr. 17, and Kyle Lowry 18. I mean, you just can't make it up. I got 53 from Giannis. I played one NBA lineup across all the single entry tournaments last night. 62 from Dragic with the triple double. 74 from Embiid, who played 27 minutes. Van Vliet's playing well. Christian Wood looks pretty solid once again. But Dan, we're at 300 with Clark, Jones, and Lowry at 5, 17, and 18. That is frustrating, man.
That's not going to get it done. I could have told you.
No. I'm cashing. That's what makes it more frustrating.
I mean,
I still got players. I still got time to go. That's the worst part about it.
Ian Clark, maybe not so good at basketball. But nonetheless, we have a 6-game NBA slate for Friday night. Talked about it many times over here on the podcast. We are heading down the home stretch, and there's still a lot to be determined in the National Basketball Association when it comes to the playoffs. So some of these teams will be playing out the string, whereas many others will be playing to try to lock up a certain portion of their playoff lives here. And we can quickly run through here as you have Indiana and Boston are now the 4 and 5 seeds. So that's an intriguing one to me, Dave, just of, do these two coaches lay off the gas completely in this contest? Do they rest players because they're previewing the potential first-round matchup? Or are they still trying to make the move either well, they're locked in. Not locked in, but Pacers are 3 games behind the 76ers. The Celtics are 4, and then they're 6 games up on the Pistons. This is a first-round matchup pretty much locked in. How do you think the coaches play it here?
Yeah, it's a good question, and there's something to consider here. The Indiana Pacers still have to face Boston twice. They've got this game against Boston and the next game against Boston. So they have, or not the next game, but they have 2 meetings with Boston. I think it might be a home-and-home series, Dan. And then you've got the Nets, 2 against Detroit, 1 against Atlanta, 1 against the Magic. The Celtics have, and by the way, using the site that you referenced the other day, the tankathon.com, it's a good
fun.
site.
It's fun, too, yeah. The way the graphic design of it.
Yeah. Pacers, Nets, those are the 3 tough ones that they're categorizing as tough. But I disagree. They're considering the 2 matchups with the Heat as easy matchups. I don't think the Heat are that easy right now. And Goran Dragic is coming off a triple-double. If he starts playing well again, it's a good defensive Miami team, an imposing one at that. I love this part of the season, Dan, and I love it from a DFS perspective because being able to break that down and look at it from different angles is really a whole lot of fun. You talk about them being locked in. Well, here's the thing. They aren't. They're locked into the 4 and 5, but they're interchangeable.
Right.
So you still want that home court advantage in that first round. So, if the Pacers win one of these games, they're tied. If they win both of them in what I think is a home-and-home series, they jump ahead of them. So two pretty big games here.
Absolutely, and ones that home court advantage will be seen as a prize here. You have Portland, excuse me, and Atlanta, Golden State, and Minnesota. So two teams out of the playoff race and two teams vying for out west. The Golden State Warriors currently, I think, still a half game up on the Denver Nuggets. Double check the standings momentarily. Portland is 4 games back of Golden State, but just a half game up on the Rockets as we record Thursday night. Recording a little earlier than typical, but we'll update that as we go. So Portland has plenty to play for, trying to stay on the top half of the standings here, as Portland is half game up on Houston, but just 2.5 games up on Utah, 2.5 games up on the Clippers. Lots can change there. Golden State trying to hold off Denver. Obviously, they'd like home court advantage throughout, but Steve Kerr has said he's not going to allow home court advantage to dictate how he rests players heading into the playoffs. Denver is playing Oklahoma City, who now is, I think, 7th in the West. Yeah, they're 7th, but that is just a mess. You have the Rockets, Jazz, Clippers, Oklahoma City Thunder, and San Antonio Spurs all within 4 games of each other as we come down the stretch here. And then you have the Washington-Utah game. Utah pretty well in the middle of that mess. And then Charlotte and the LA Lakers. And that is a game that Charlotte on the outside looking in, but still relatively involved here. The Wizards are now mathematically eliminated after games tonight, and the Magic and Hornets are out on the outside looking in as of this very minute. But the Hornets still alive in trying to make their push for the playoffs, and they have a matchup here with the Lakers.
You know what's crazy about that, Dan? Not to cut you off, but it's really wild. I mentioned it yesterday. So the Brooklyn Nets just lost to the Sixers.
Right.
Okay? And they now fall to 38-38. Did the Pistons win?
They did, yeah. They're the 6th seed now.
They did. Okay, so we got the update. There we go. So the Sixers win. The Pistons win, move into the 6th seed. The Pacers lose to 38-38. If you said some of this, forgive me, but follow me for a second. The Nets have the toughest schedule of any team in the league to close out the season. Bucks. So Sixers they had first. Sixers, Bucks, Raptors, Sixers, Pacers, Boston, Miami. That is the remaining schedule.
It's a rough road.
Real rough road. Yeah. I mentioned the Sixers twice accidentally, but yeah, you get the point.
So reading quickly on Twitter here, and we'll get into the games momentarily. Giannis is limping off the court and can barely put weight on his right ankle after running into a Clippers player.
Ah, damn it. Needed some more Giannis. I'm not going to act like I'm upset about that. I'm a Sixers fan. If it's not if it's not career ending and it might just put him out for a couple of weeks, I'm not going to act like I'm upset. I'll leave that to everyone else who wants to pretend that, oh my God, I feel so bad for him. If he sprained his ankle and he got a decent sprain in there, no, I'm not going to act like I'm upset about it. I'm sorry.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. Let's dive in here. Injuries to keep an eye on. Anything stick out to you? I know LeBron sat. Would assume he plays in this game on Friday. He was out for rest. You got Paul George with a Q tag for Friday's matchup due to his left shoulder soreness. I know Kyrie has a Q tag as well. He was rested for Tuesday's game. Assume he'll play here. Anybody that stands out as things we need to track or be on top of when it comes to injuries?
Let's talk about it. And by the way, Giannis will be fine. He always is. The guy's made of steel. You ever notice that? Every time it looks like a nasty injury, he just pops right back up. Not this time. What did they say? He limped off, couldn't put weight on what?
Yeah, the reporter said couldn't put weight on his, I believe, right leg. Let's double scroll. Giannis is limping off the court and can barely put weight on his right ankle after running into a Clippers
ankle. I just wanted to make sure we were not talking like an ACL or an Achilles.
No. Yeah, it looked like a rolled ankle.
In that case, I legitimately would have serious sympathy for the guy. Little tweak to the ankle ain't gonna kill anybody though. Anyway. What are we doing? Starting the point guard here?
Well, any injuries?
Yeah.
that have your eye.
All right, so let's take a look, shall we? First of all, a lot of the injuries we talk about now, as you know, Dan, there might be 100 more
Right.
and 50 more important ones by tomorrow morning, by tomorrow afternoon. Generally speaking, when you get the resting guys, you get it somewhat early, so that's good. But LeBron's going to play, it looks like. Paul George will keep a close eye on him. Aside from that, you got like guys like Taj Gibson and Taurean Prince, Kyrie Irving and Horford all seem fine. God, I think that's it, right? I don't know if Nicholas Batum, Tony Parker, those guys, Reggie Bullock are all questionable. Cody Zeller's still out. So is Josh Hart. I don't know if there's anyone outside of guys that we know are out and will be out for a prolonged period of time. Then I think we're good.
All right, let's dive in. We'll start at point guard and roll through to center. Again, MLB stuff will be live on the site and over on YouTube, MLB Strategy Show, as well as an NBA Strategy Show. So you're getting best of both worlds there. And then you get MLB Deeper Dive and plenty of written and projection content over there on Osmo.com. We start at point guard. Westbrook, Lillard, Curry, Irving should be in here at 8,600. Kemba at 85 against the Lakers. Trae Young gets a matchup with Portland at 83. Donovan Mitchell, maybe we save him for shooting guard. But top end of point guard, where do you lean first? Is it back to Lillard, or is that price tag creeped up enough that you might stay away?
Well, that last game was pretty brutal. Did you roster? I mean, I did.
Oh, I totally did. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. I did, and I felt good about it. You know, it was rough. They blew him out. He got off to a bad start shooting and didn't really need to continue. You're damn right I'm going back to Dame Lillard against the Hawks, though, man. They're only 3-point favorites here, first of all. 3-point favorites against the Hawks in Atlanta. Oh, boy, do I like me some Dame. And honestly, it's not like he's super pricey here. He was more expensive last game on DraftKings, at least. He was pricier last game, I think 10-3. So, I mean, how do you not love Damian Lillard in this spot? I mean, is there any way that you can't? Now, if you want to make arguments for other players at similar costs, we can do that. You have Russell Westbrook against Denver, but really, I don't have Dame. I expect Dame here to. He's 1.6 fantasy points per minute is what he was averaging. With Dame and Nurkic off the court this season before last game. I'm sure it came down a bit, but not a lot. You know, you're still looking at 1.5 plus, and then you're factoring in the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, I don't think he's $600 less than Westbrook. Normally, that would be insane. You just play Westbrook. And if you wanted to here, I really wouldn't blame you for it. But I'm going back to the well with Lillard. It is a phenomenal spot. The game is going to see a ton of scoring, and really they are dealing with a ton of injuries, a ton of serious injuries. God, that Nurkic injury, man, that's
Adam asked me flat out. He's like, you watch it, right? I was like, hell no. I'm not you, Orlov. No, I'm not seeking that. I'm not seeking that out. No.
I mean, I watched it. Well, here's the thing. I was flipping between games, and I always have Twitter open, like TweetDeck, and I see, oh my God, Nurkic. Right. So I search for it and I find it, and I watch the ref kick him afterwards, accidentally, but that's, oh God, it's terrible, man. Not only was he having a monster game, but a great season as well. And he just, look, I know he seems like this big burly dude you wouldn't want to mess with, but I don't know. I feel like it's one of the last people you'd want to see that happen to. He's really made a great career for himself in Portland. And I think the reason it bothered me the most is because when you're that big and your leg does that, I get modern medicine is where it is, but will he ever be the same when he returns?
Giannis back at the scorer's table. So we keep you up to date here on the podcast.
Who would have guessed?
There it is.
Who would have guessed?
It's the adamantium in the skin there that gets it done for Weapon X each and every time. Nerding out a little bit on some X-Men for everybody out there.
Yeah, I don't even know what that meant.
Yeah, come on. Kemba Walker, Trae Young. Any love for any of these 8K guys between Curry, Walker, Irving, and Trae Young?
I mean, I think you can go back to Trey here. I don't mind him. 8,300. He's been playing really well. He's getting a lot of minutes. His usage is through the roof. Sure. Kemba Walker against the Lakers, another one, 8,500. I get it. I didn't think I'd be saying this earlier in the season, but I like Trey more than I like Kemba. It doesn't mean I don't really like Kemba. Now, you know what? That's not a fair statement. The Lakers have just been atrocious.
Yep.
They've been atrocious. And where it's a pace-up spot in a big way for Charlotte, it's not for Atlanta. They're similarly – now, I got to go Kemba here. But I really do like Trey, and I think they're a lot closer than you might initially suspect. But you know what the biggest difference maker here is? This is a big game for the Hornets, a really big game for the Hornets, right? One win gets them, what, half a game, one game out? So of the 8th seed, big game here. Kemba should play huge minutes. Yeah, definitely like him. As far as the rest of these guys go, we'd be remiss to not mention that Kyrie Irving is $8,600 on DraftKings. If it's going to be Trey, Curry, and Dame that are all super high owned, and Kyrie flies completely under the radar, I don't see any reason that we wouldn't have some interest going there either. And then as far as value goes, right now, we don't have all that much. Seth Curry, I think, is still perfectly fine.
Just hit a damn free throw, Seth. Nurkic is fine.
What's that?
I said if he just hit a damn free throw, Seth.
Oh,
Nurkic
that was on
fine.
a missed free throw, wasn't it?
That went to overtime. No. It was, if he would have.
No. Yeah. Nurkic was Nurkic was coming in for an offensive board, I thought. You're talking about if Seth Curry hit a free throw, they wouldn't have gone to OT.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Because right, and Nurkic actually it was towards the end of second overtime.
Yeah, it was at the 2:22 mark of the second.
You wonder, is that does the fact that they were so deep into that game have anything to do with it? I mean, I would say probably not, because he still only played 34 minutes. It's not like he was getting monster run, and it was a freak way that he came down on like the edge of a foot. I don't know, crazy. But no, Trey Young to me is still fine. I'm assuming he lost minutes last game because it was never really competitive, but I would put him around 30 minutes here. He has the same great matchup that Dame Lillard does, so there's that. Tyus Jones against Golden State, if you're looking for some value. Maybe you see somebody I don't, but I don't think there is a lot of really good, talented value here in good spots. I guess you could throw out Rajon Rondo.
Yep.
Yeah, he hasn't looked particularly impressive lately, but does he continue to get minutes if it's a close game? I'd say yes, probably 32. He's below 6K, not bad. That's where I'm at point guard, though.
Yeah, I guess I would question exactly what we get out of the Denver backcourt. And if Jamal Murray is at 5,900 against Oklahoma City, he's somebody that stood out a bit to me while rolling through here, maybe talking about him at shooting guard, but 5,900 against Russell Westbrook and a defense that hasn't been that great against guard play on the year. I think Murray might be on my radar a bit here on DraftKings. He definitely has the upside to get it done. I know there's a lot of minutes to go around for multiple point guards / shooting guards on that team, but I like Murray there, 59.
Sure. I mean, he's super scoring dependent, but when he's knocking them down, which oftentimes he can do in bunches, yeah, no question. 5,900, I'm with you there. Look, he's the type of guy that could finish with 20 fantasy points or 50.
Yep.
And at a salary like that in a massive pace-up spot against the OKC Thunder, yeah, I get it for sure.
Let's talk shooting guard next. A lot of the names we've already mentioned will double over here. You have Brad Beal at 9,300. Donovan Mitchell is at 8K against Washington. You get Andrew Wiggins here. Jamal Murray again, 5,900. Satoransky, Ingles, Bogdanovich, that of the Bojan persuasion. What do you got at shooting guard?
Bojan, huh? All right.
Bojan.
Huh?
Bojan.
Gotcha.
Bogdanovich.
Or Boyan. All right.
I know.
I know you know.
I was, we're not talking baseball. We're not talking baseball, but I was really hoping that both of us would take a crack at Kikuchi. UC Kikuchi on a podcast early on in the season, but we'll do that for a later day.
Spell it.
It is YUSEI KIKUCHI.
Yeah, well, you know what? Is it? I always assumed it was just UC Kikuchi. Is that right?
I think it is, but I'm gonna double check while we have it here.
Sometimes the Japanese, and I could be 100% wrong here. Sometimes is he Japanese or Korean?
He is Japanese, and it's you say
we should have known. We should have known
Kikuchi. Yeah, you say Kikuchi.
That is amateur.
You say Kukichi, and I say Kikuchi.
Oh no.
Let's get back to the NBA quickly before this.
It's amateur though to not know that was say and that's C. Yes. That's real amateur.
Amateur hour. We've only been doing this for 6 years. It's fine. Shooting guard. What do you got?
Yeah. Brad Beal played 37 minutes again in the second of a back-to-back. Brooks really has no interest in resting him. I think he's got to at some point. Not too worried about it here against Utah because I don't really think you need to play him. Another game where, I mean, huge spread. Utah's playing well, and there are a lot of guards that we can go to as alternatives. It's crazy to see how cheap Curry's getting, but also to see how often he has struggled. Now, last game was really impressive, and the assist totals were up. But he also hauled in 10 rebounds, 28 points. I don't know, man. With Cousins on the court, Curry is definitely less appealing. But at 8,900 against Minnesota, I'm willing to take a second look. Put it that way. 230 total here. By the way, 4 of the 6 games are at 225 and above. So a few really nice games from a pace standpoint. Some teams getting a big pace down differential, others way up. And we'll talk about a couple that we haven't gotten to. One of them is Donovan Mitchell against Washington. You're getting a nice pace increase there. They might not be playing at the fastest pace, but certainly an increase from the Utah Jazz. And Mitchell's another guy where price is pretty reasonable. He hasn't been playing very well lately. Just really struggled against the Lakers. There's no excuses for that. Against Phoenix, some foul trouble and a blowout. Same for Chicago, blowout. But that Lakers game, there aren't really many excuses you can make. Obviously against Washington, a team that has been crushed by opposing backcourts, point guard, shooting guard, doesn't matter all year long. Mitchell is a very fine play. With multi-position eligibility, though, you have the opportunity to do a lot. Like Klay Thompson's one guy. He doesn't have MPE, but at shooting guard, 6,700. I don't mind him, especially if you don't want to pay for Curry, but you want to get exposure to this Golden State team. You mentioned Jamal Murray, too. I think you're right. Facing a huge pace-up matchup against the Thunder. Defensively, they've been middle of the road since the start of January. And since the deadline where there weren't really any moves made, so we can use since January. And, Murray's going to get a lot of opportunities, a lot of good looks. It just depends on whether or not he's knocking down his shots. And if he is, I think you're going to be feeling pretty good about a sub-6K price point. As far as the value guys go, nobody – I don't know if there's anyone all the way down at the bottom here. You wish there was. Seth Curry we talked about. I will go back to Curry. I think because of the matchup, because of the scarcity at point guard and shooting guard as far as value goes, you're going to be hard pressed for options unless you're looking at Bembry or Kevin Huerter with Taurean Prince expected to sit, but that's never really fun. And Bembry lets you down more times than he doesn't.
All right, let's roll on to small forward, where, of course, lots of these guys will be mentioned again. We start off at the top with LeBron and Paul George. LeBron most likely is probably here. Most likely will play. Paul George seeing no significant reports, just saying that he's questionable because of the left shoulder soreness. This is a big game for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Would assume, if that's the only reason, that Paul George is in the lineup. They are currently, again, 7th in the West. I guess in the end, pretty much the Kings are out, so it's just vying for position here out west, so maybe they sit Paul George. But what do you got at small forward? Who are some of your favorite plays?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, Christian Wood with another huge game. He played 27-40, had 25 points,
Mm-hmm.
9 rebounds and assists, 3 steals, a block, and 44 fantasy points. Pretty incredible. And the Pelicans just beat the Kings here. Man, that is something. Let me tell you, that is something. Really crazy.
He's gonna, as long as Davis is out, he's just gonna keep getting minutes, and he's athletic, and they want to see what they got there. So he's gonna play.
He's been on, he's been on a lot of teams too.
Yep.
Who would have thought? Anyway, OKC does actually have a lot to play for though, because if they, it's not like they're going to fall out of the playoffs, right? Like you just said, but they do have an opportunity to move up to 5th,
right,
or fall down to 8th. There's a decent difference there. One of them is facing the Warriors in round 1. The other's facing the Blazers or the Rockets. My guess, Blazers finish 4th with all of these injuries. And that 5th seed, call me crazy, Dan, but it becomes a whole lot more coveted now.
I would think so. I would think with that matchup would definitely roll that way. So what do you think? Do you think George plays? And this is complete gut call based on the limited information we have. If you had to make that call now, do you think Paul George is in the lineup with a sore left shoulder or not?
Well, that's the thing. I really don't know. What I do know is that he had a shoulder injury before. I was trying to figure out, I don't know if it was the left or right shoulder, but
I think it was his left shoulder.
Before it was?
I think it's always been his left shoulder, hasn't it?
That's what I'm asking.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I'll double check while you continue talking.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Because if this is something serious, and it's like, all right, well, if George plays, then he could aggravate it even further. And then what's the point of trying to get the 5th seed if he's not going to be any good in the playoffs, right? Or he's perfectly fine. It's just a little sore, but he can play through this and it's not going to affect him. And if that's the case, he plays. But I really don't know because I don't know.
I was incorrect. It was the right shoulder previously.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so because it was affecting his shot, significantly. Then if that's the case, I would expect him to play. Yeah. If it was the right shoulder and the same one as before, I would have some concerns. Paul George against Denver here, assuming everything's okay. I do like him at 9,700 for sure. I really do. I also I don't hate LeBron James. Clearly, he's going to play his full allotment of minutes to close out the year. He's reasonably priced. This game's got a 226 total, 2-point spread. I don't see any way it doesn't stay competitive. Both of those guys at the top of small forward, to me, make for pretty strong options. And I haven't looked at Fanduel yet, but my guess is that the position is as weak as it always is, You don't even have Joe Ingles there, who's a decent play. I'm pretty sure. Isn't Joe Ingles shooting guard on FanDuel now?
I think last time I checked, I believe he was, but double check.
Yeah. Point is, the position is generally really rough. Pulling it up now just to see what we got here. And we have
Joe is a small forward.
Oh, he is a small forward. Who was I thinking? I can't remember who it was that I was thinking. Anyway, unimportant. Point is, even though you have Ingles, he's 7K. You have Ingles, you have LeBron, and you have George. George is 10-4, LeBron 11-3. Not crazy. Get past that and start looking at the other potential or possibilities here. You probably take a long, hard look at Maurice Harkless, at Mo Harkless against Atlanta. Price is up there a little bit, but what are you going to do? Another one based on minutes and matchup alone. Miles Bridges has been getting a lot of minutes recently, Dan. 34, 33, 34, 30. Hopefully Batum continues to sit. Then you get that in there as well. By the way, it was Batum had not sat but played off the bench last game, I believe. And he may not have even played at all. They said he was going to play off the bench. He might not have played. I can't even remember at this rate. But So he's not on the injury report now, they're saying. He had an illness, back to full strength. Oh, wow, he lost 8 pounds when he was out.
Wow.
So well, this is interesting then. Dan, if Nick Batum comes back, and by the way, I have to be I may be thinking of a wrong team entirely at this rate. But Nick Batum comes, because I was thinking he was coming off the bench. I don't know what made me think that, or maybe it was just a week ago, and I felt like it was 2 days.
It was entirely possible with this NBA season.
Yeah, it's possible for sure. At 4,200, if he comes back and they're in the playoff chase, you might have to give Nick Batum a look. We'll see what his minutes look like. I know he hasn't been very productive, but that's $700 above the minimum on DraftKings at a pretty weak position.
Makes a ton of sense. And I haven't seen any news specifically on Batum, so trying to find if I can corroborate your story there or not.
It's saying he's off the injury report.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that one, at least cheap enough price tag to keep in mind. Power forwards are up next. Obviously, we have LeBron and Paul George again. Kevin Durant is at 8,800. John Collins is at 6,900 against Portland. Thomas Bryant has power forward and center eligibility. Had a gigantic game back a couple of days ago. 52.25 DraftKings points, 18 points, 19 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and a steal. He's getting a ton of run as well. You talk about Beal. You know that Thomas Bryant's going to get it. He's at 6,600. You have Sabonis at 62, Portis at 6K. Do you go back to the well at the top end with LeBron and Paul George, depending on position and lineup builds, or do you have another power forward here that you like the best?
By the way, it was March 21st. So
there
I don't know, something in my head made me think it was literally a full week ago. I was right, though. He came off the bench, and then he just didn't play. But neither here nor there. Yeah, George and Durant, or sorry, George and LeBron. You know, it depends really on which position is deeper. Power forward's been all over the place lately. So on FanDuel, you don't really have that luxury to play him at one or the other. And you're probably going to want to play Damian Lillard. So I don't envision myself playing both, at least not for now, unless things look really ugly. You have Paul Millsap against OKC. That is one spot that I definitely like. It's crazy to think. You know, it's crazy, Dan. He's the most expensive power forward on FanDuel, tied with Derek Favors for the second straight game, or the second straight night that they've played. They've been the highest priced power forwards.
Run that by me again.
Millsap and Favors on FanDuel in the last 2 games that they've played, they've been on the same slate. Have been the most expensive power forwards on FanDuel now for 2 games in a row.
Yeah. It's a different world over there on FanDuel. I mean, Favors has been playing well. Adam and I talked about him when we recorded the Wednesday pod. He's been playing well. He just doesn't play in the fourth quarter. Like he gets out there for 4 minutes and then disappears.
Right. No, he's been playing very well, but you're talking about a guy that averages 25 minutes a game. Right. Well, 23 on the season, a matter of fact, being the most expensive player at the position. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Derek Favors today. But I like him on DraftKings where he's 5,800.
Right.
Millsap 6,200. If I'm going Millsap or Favors on FanDuel, give me Millsap because he's going to play big minutes in a competitive game. And hey,
it's a mess at power forward on FanDuel, though you do have Jason Tatum power forward eligible.
Oh, it's a mess. Hey, believe it or not, the Wizards have the Nuggets are a half game behind Golden State.
Right.
A half game. So they got plenty to play for here. John Collins, just, high scoring game, 6,900 on DraftKings, 74 on FanDuel. I mean, I do like Collins here. This is totally a price play. I have no issues with it. Rim protection has gotten a whole lot worse there over the past couple of days for obvious reasons. He fouled out last game in 20 minutes, but I'm going to project him for 30 minutes here at 6,900. I'm okay with that. He's only $300 more expensive than Thomas Bryant.
Right.
Bryant's been awesome, but I'll take Collins in this particular spot. Again, Bryant's been really good, but give me Collins here. Bryant in tournaments, just because my guess is people will overlook him against Utah. And I think that's fair. I mean, it is a really tough spot. I don't know how much run he's going to get if it gets out of hand. We talked about Millsap. You had mentioned Tatum. That team's, Horford and Irving are expected back, though. So, that's definitely going to take some shine off of him. And then with the way power forwards look, I think you have to at least keep considering Kuzma, even if he hasn't been great, just because he's discounted. Collins might be your guy there at such a cheap cost, or you're looking at, Bobby Portis, but his minutes are super sketchy, even if he starts, even if Trevor Ariza is out. Al-Farouq Aminu, who I don't know what to make of his minutes. He did lose some to blowout last game, but he's kind of been all over the map too. My guess is he still gets plenty of run in this spot, especially now that they have to juggle the front court rotation around. There are a few players to consider here, but nobody I love. And the last one we have to talk about would be Frank Kaminsky. 23 minutes and then 32. Cody Zeller's still out. What type of run does Kaminsky get? I don't know. It's a very good question. But if he gets good minutes against the Lakers and he gets minutes at the 5, you're going to want some Frank Kaminsky at that price point. It's just a matter of what's going to happen. And is he going to get the run? But the last game Charlotte played, this isn't him playing 32 or 30 minutes in the last game he played. No, the last game the Hornets played, Frank Kaminsky played 30-plus minutes.
At center, let's close it out there. Is it JaVale McGee's world and we're just living in it, or is this a streak here by McGee that you're expecting to come crashing down here against the Charlotte Hornets?
Dude, he's been great. He's just, if it didn't crash down against Utah, it probably won't crash against the Hornets, against Kaminsky and Biyombo and Hernan Gomez, whoever James Borrego decides to toss out there on any given night. The price is getting up there, though. I mean, McGee's getting pricey, man. He's definitely getting pricey. I don't think it's crazy to consider him here, though.
Not at all.
No, even at 7K, it's not outlandish with the way that he's playing, because he's always been a good per minute guy. It hasn't just come out of nowhere. He's getting the minutes and he's producing excellent numbers on a per minute basis. It's not that surprising. But what's surprising is Luke Walton's finally giving him the minutes. And by the way, they're not exactly playing all that poorly. I mean, they stayed competitive for almost all of that game against Utah. They just beat Washington. They just beat Sacramento. Hung him with Brook. Like, not saying they're beating great teams, but they're at least playing better than they were, or not worse with McGee. So there you have it. Let's talk about a couple of other guys here that some of these prices are pretty wild. Number 1, Rudy Gobert. I feel like I'm a YouTube countdown video. Number 1, Rudy Gobert, 7,800 against Washington, just been demolished by bigs. And he's seen some limited minutes at times because of blowouts and this and that, you name it. Well, against Washington here, it's really tough to get away from a guy that is priced so far down. Number 2, DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins has just played 32 minutes last time out in that road win over Memphis. Had a big game because he is a monster when it comes to racking up stats in all of the fantasy relevant categories against Minnesota, and a soft Karl Anthony Towns. I expect him to do it once again. 7,100 is simply too cheap. And number 3, not really getting in the price point here because he's not underpriced, but Karl Anthony Towns coming off a rough one last time out. Yes, 50 fantasy points is rough given what we were expecting in a good matchup against the Clippers. But I have no problem assuming that he's going to bounce back here. He had 26 and 21 his last time out against Golden State. The Warriors, yes, are heavy favorites, but what are you going to do? Wouldn't be surprised to see this game stay competitive enough in Minnesota. They tend to get up for these type of games. Maybe the crowd will be a little bit hyped even in a lost season because the Warriors are in town. And Karl Anthony Towns will probably play another 34 to 36 minutes and hopefully give you strong numbers. Now, I will say, if you're going between him and Lillard, you say you're only playing one guy above 10K. Believe it or not, I think Lillard's going to still be my number one guy here among the top 10 guys. Sorry, I just took your question, but that is my answer.
Well, I mean, it came to that point. I mean, let's be honest. The show has evolved.
You're right.
The show has evolved far enough.
Anyone else from center?
You were talking about
Zach Collins, Cantor.
I think you were talking about John Collins. So looking at Dwayne Dedmon, 5,600. I don't hate, but I'd rather pay up a bit more here. Cantor at 5,500 is how many minutes? It was a blowout, right? You got 22
he played
minutes.
21. I'm actually pulling up the game flow right now.
Because they won big against Chicago, and that game was a blowout early, I believe.
Yeah, from the jump. It was, so let's see. Cantor's first half rotation was 9 minutes in the first quarter from 12 to 3. And then let me make sure we didn't get any fouls here. Because it's kind of important. No, it looks like we're good on that. And then in the second, so you have one foul going on. In the second quarter, he played 5.25 minutes. So that's 14 minutes. He never got his fourth quarter rotation. He played 8 minutes in the third. Let's give him another minute there because he played 9 minutes to start the first. This game was not competitive at that point. So you're talking about 14 minutes in the first. Yeah, I'm going to project him for around 27, 28 minutes here. And, yeah, I think a lot of sites are going to project him for less. But, no, that game, if this game stays close, yeah, Cantor should play 27, 28 minutes if he gets a similar rotation to the first half. And if Stotts decides to close with him, he might play more than 5 minutes in the second half. But it seemed like he was on pace to play Yusuf Nurkic normal, 28, 29-minute rotation.
Right. And I think that we know that Cantor has the upside to put up big offensive numbers.
And it's Atlanta.
Yeah, it's Atlanta. So I do think on the other side between Dedmon or Collins, one of the two will have a big game. Collins more likely just from a skill set perspective, but Dedmon could put up some decent numbers here too against Cantor, who does not play defense, which we have to remember as well as we transition our thought process around the Portland Trailblazers front court. Any final thoughts here on this slate before we close it out?
No, I think we're good. Cantor played some minutes with Collins. That'll be interesting to see if anything develops there. But I think we're good there. If you're looking at Cantor, you're looking at Collins, and you think they're going to split it 24-25, 25-23, I'm still going to give Cantor the 20-28 here and hope that I'm right and give Collins the backup minutes, maybe a few overlap, but that'll do it.
All right. That's where we're going to close it out. Remember, MLB shows are throughout the day. You have an MLB strategy show in the morning, then you have a deeper dive with Lofty. You get Adam throughout the day. You have written content. You have projections. And then the NBA as well. You have Live Before Lock and all sorts of goodies that are coming your way as well. Transition times during DFS are always fun. Lots of hard work going on by the whole crew over at Awesemo.com. So if you're not yet a member, you want to be, use the promo code EARLYBIRD. That gets you 50% off your first month. With all that said, wish you the best of luck on Friday. Emac and Adam are with you Saturday morning right here on the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com.